Thanks so much for listening in and watching for the first of a few in the series on finding yourself in chaotic times. Title needs no explanation, and so I just want to start jumping right in. This is not a guided meditation practice, but is an explanation of kind of the background, what mindfulness is, and kind of what helps us stay motivated to keep practicing. So the first thing is just to start asking yourself, why? Why did you sign up? Why are you interested in mindfulness? You have your own reasons to spend your time learning about this. And also notice what reasons you might feel like you would prefer not to. There's bound to be some kind of apprehension or worry, and we'll kind of get into that. But it's likely that at some point, someone, a coach, a teacher, a friend, has talked to you about the benefits of mindfulness, about how it can help. And this is often what motivates us, especially initially. We may be feeling the stress, anxiety, depression, feeling just really overwhelmed with life or really distracted. Sometimes people get into it because it can help with pain management or also with relational problems, with increasing our compassion, both for ourselves and for other people. I'm not going to get bogged down in all of the science and research, but there's a lot going behind it that says mindfulness can be really beneficial. One thing to note before moving forward is just that mindfulness isn't a quick fix. It's not something you do once and then, hey, everything's all better. It takes time and sustained practice. It's like running or any other kind of exercise that the benefits come once you commit to regularly doing it. I like to think even bigger than the benefits that you might get, that practicing mindfulness meditation is a way to befriend your whole self, your full self. If you think about being upset and wanting a friend, someone that you could talk to, what would make someone be that person that you would call, that you would want to show up to unannounced at their door saying, hey, I have a problem. Although now you have to be socially distanced. That's another thing. What would make someone that good friend? Think about those qualities. Things that come to mind are that they are attentive. They listen. They're not judging you. They're not trying to fix you even. They're present. They're exploring with you what's going on, why, and they're not centering it on themselves, but they're being there for you. And so the question is, can you learn to be there for yourself, for what's going on in your own world, in your own experience? This can be difficult because our minds can be somewhat scary, be a bit of a mess. We have so much going on in there, and we often slow down enough to get a sense of it, and it's terrifying. So we're like, I'm going to stay distracted, stay busy, keep going, or tune out, put something on a screen because it's just overwhelmingly chaotic in there. And it's not just that we have so much going on in our brains, but we have particular difficult things. Like we all have this inner critic voice that we slow down maybe enough or get caught up in our head, and this critic just likes to tell us how much we suck, how we always suck, we'll always suck, all the different ways. It has a nice long list of all the different ways. And then we also have other parts, like the ruminating part that gets really stuck on the past hurts and wounds, likes to just feel and remind you of all the terrible things that have happened. Or you get the worried parts that are really anxious about the unknown future, and maybe they're trying to plan and manage and be productive, or maybe they're getting really overwhelmed and frantic. We have the part I like to call the F it part. It's the part that's like, this is all too overwhelming. I need to detach, I need to unwind, release. And yeah, I know that this thing I'm about to do has negative consequences, but for whatever reason, I need it right now. So we have all of this going on in our brains. It's really chaotic, and we experience it, and it's not really under our control. We're not sitting there thinking, oh, it'd be great thinking about how awful I am. That'd be a really good use of my time right now. Just kind of, we settle in and get caught in our thoughts, and it happens. And so our general strategy is often to disconnect, stay busy, keep going, because who wants to get stuck in there? So now you're like, well, I didn't have apprehensions of mindfulness, but maybe now you do. Sorry. We often, as I said, go in trying to fix the problem, right? That's what we want to do. We see our lives, it feels chaotic, feels overwhelming, we're anxious, we're sad, we're tired of the critics, or we're finding ourselves really emotionally reactive and we don't really know why. So we go in, okay, I've heard mindfulness can help me fix this. I'm going to meditate these problems away. I'm going to get them under control. And then we do that for a little while and start to realizing like, oh, we're part of the problem. It's not necessarily just everything out there. It's who I am that contributes to these things. So then we kind of go to the next phase, which is, okay, I'm going to meditate to get rid of myself. I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to become the new and improved, better, more peaceful, kind, compassionate, loving person that I can be. And so then we move from seeing those problems out there and start seeing them as in here. And we do that for a while, and then we realize like, oh, been doing this. I'm still the same problem. Still got the same things. And that's when we start to kind of let go a little of ourselves and the problems. This connects us to some pretty difficult, complex teachings about there not being a self. You can find this in both the Christian and Buddhist practices, meditation, others as well. I'm just most familiar with those two. And instead of getting caught up in them as much as I enjoy that as a philosophy undergrad, so those sorts of questions interest me, we're looking for something much more basic, something that you can experience. And so go ahead, just take a couple of deep breaths right now. We're going to do just a quick 30-second little experience. Breathing in, fully exhaling, letting go. And then think to yourself, what's here when there's no problem to solve? What does it feel like to not have any problem to fix or problem to solve? And then you can ask yourself, who is here when there's no problem to solve? You can open your eyes if you close them, or just return to kind of the present. We often, when we take away that sense of a problem, we feel this kind of ease, this lightness. It can feel energetic for some, calm. And in that, we're not caught up in the self. We don't have this story about the self and the world and all the things that we need to fix out there or in here. There's just presence in the moment. Not being caught up in the self and all of the drama of fixing it all. And we learn over time in mindfulness to access just this looser sense of ourselves, to not take our drama as if it were everything or the only true thing, but to be able to roll with it a little bit more. And that's where I think you start seeing actually some of the more benefits that you want, that you initially going in for, is over time you loosen up with who you are. So that's kind of those initial phases, but because it's important to be clear what we even mean by mindfulness. What is it? So here's a common definition that's used in a lot of mindfulness trainings, which is mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, in three particular ways. It's on purpose, in the present moment, and without judgment. So it's another way to just say it's being undistracted. It's being fully attentive to what's happening in the present moment without adding anything, including judgment. So it's often we think of mindfulness as sitting in a chair on the floor, some sort of formal practice, but you can do mindfulness practices with anything. You can eat mindfully, paying attention to what you're doing, actually being aware of the food, the taste, the textures, not judging it good, bad, but just kind of allowing whatever it is to be. You can do it brushing your teeth, taking a shower, going for a walk. Walking meditation is a really common practice. It gets you moving a little bit, but allowing you to pay attention, to stay in that moment, in the present, without jumping to the past, worrying about the future, or evaluating. Am I meditating yet? How mindful am I? So that's again another way of detaching. So it's really simply what a mindfulness practice is. And so we're going to jump into kind of the first foundational practices. I like to start with a focus on the breath. Here's a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen Buddhist. He was recommended by Martin Luther King Jr. for the Nobel Prize, still alive, living out kind of his final days in Vietnam. He was exiled for a little while. But he writes, "Our breathing is a stable, solid ground that we can take refuge in. No matter what is going on inside us, the thoughts, the emotions, perceptions, all that chaos, He says, our breathing is always with us, like a faithful friend." So our breathing, paying attention and connecting that is part of just that first step of learning to be a friend to yourself, learning to be present, to be there for you. And when I started, I didn't think much about posture. It was, kind of a mental thing. And over time, I realized how key that is. So you can see here a little diagram of different postures. You can get really excited and interested in it. My main thing I would say is if you're trying out things, don't force it. I'm not very flexible, so I like to sit on the floor, but I sit Burmese style, which doesn't have the crossing of your legs up onto your hips like full lotus, because I have rough knees and hips and don't want to hurt myself. You can also do it in a chair. The key is you want your hips elevated up above your knees. Feet can connect to the floor to be flat. But if your hips are above your knees, it helps you get kind of a natural curve to your spine, which then allows your spine to actually support your weight. And that's what you want. You want to be able to let go, to not be having to strain to sit, but to allow your body to support you. It also allows kind of a natural, deeper breathing, allowing your belly to expand, allowing that diaphragm, so you're not just breathing shallowly. So pay attention to the posture. It can help, really simple way, finding a kitchen chair, folding up a pillow that you sleep on, folding that in half and putting that on there gives you a little height, gives you a little cushion, kind of pushes you a little forward so your back isn't having to lean against the back of the chair, but allowing your spine to support yourself. And so you find your way to sit, and then here are just the two kind of simple versions of how to practice. I recommend starting kind of a 10-minute time frame. If you can only do 5 or 7, it's fine. If you can do longer, that's great. I've kind of averaged out now. My practices have ranged anywhere from 10 minutes to about an hour. I'd say probably 25 minutes is my standard kind of normal time. But starting off 10 minutes, try that. And the first way to get grounded in that breath is just kind of a mantra or phrase. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. And then on the exhale, breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. You can kind of simplify that, breathing in, breathing out, and then simplify it further, in, out. It's just a way to help you stay focused, to help your brain not latch on to the next exciting thing, but giving it something to do. Sometimes I'll talk about this as like throwing a wild dog a bone, Dog, your brain's jumping around, you throw it a bone, it grabs it, it settles down, has something to do. Another way to do this is counting. So you count your breaths, inhale, exhale, that's one breath. And you start do 1, count all the way up to 10. Anytime you lose track, you just start over. Remember, no judgment. It's not something you got to berate yourself about. You just start over. Or if you make it all the way from 1 up to 10, you just start again at the beginning. The key is it gives you some sort of anchor to help you initially, finding some sense of calmness in your mind, helping it just kind of settle into a routine of just sitting, being present to your breath, and not judging yourself. Doing it consistently, not trying to fix everything, not trying to make sure you're doing it right, having that looser sense. Get distracted, no big deal. Starting over again. So those are 2 ways I would recommend if you're very new to mindfulness, starting there, or even if you've been doing it for a while, returning to these kind of foundational steps that help develop an ability to concentrate, to stay focused, and also kind of calming your thoughts down just a little bit. And so that is the kind of key initial steps, the first practice. Some other pointers: finding a routine, a kind of time that you want to do this. I like to do it early in the morning, but building a routine helps keep it consistent. I just recommend not doing it right after breakfast or right after dinner, right after a meal. I also wouldn't recommend doing it right before bed. Sometimes you can get relaxed and then you're in that nice relaxed state and you actually find a new sense of energy. So those would be kind of the key things. Again, regular sustained practice is the way to find some of that initial aims. And again, no judgment. That's not a problem that you're looking to get a sense of ease in your life to help with some of the stress, the anxiety. We're working with being present to ourselves exactly where we are, not needing to be anything or do anything else, but just to be a friend to ourselves in this time, to be there. So good luck, and next week we'll dive a little bit deeper into some other practices.